Harlem Berry working to solidify his return to LSU. We've got the scoop. It is Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in the world. We saw that Kevan Smith arrived in Baton Rouge on Sunday. LSU's new running backs coach. Shout out Everydayers. We had an episode on that previous. If you want to check it out, you can. And there's been a lot of conversation about Kevan Smith, right? He's the guy that's been with Lane Kiffin for the last 9 years, former UCF and NFL running back, coached with Kiffin at FAU the last 6 years at Ole Miss. And he was a guy that Lane Kiffin very much wanted to come to Baton Rouge. And this had been a major point of contention because many of you and I were hopeful that Frank Wilson would return. For all of the reasons that he's valuable on staff. But every coach should have the autonomy to hire their staff. Lane Kiffin wanted Kevan Smith, and apparently he has gotten Kevan Smith. We reported at LouisianaSports.net that deal has been solidified. It would obviously stand to reason when Kevan Smith showed up on campus at football ops with the rest of the Ole Miss coaches who were coming in town after their playoff win. Again, a quick reminder, if you're not familiar, if you haven't heard us say it yet, but ever since Lane Kiffin was hired, all of the coaches that are coming with Lane from Ole Miss that are still working with Ole Miss through the college football playoff, on their off days at Ole Miss, they are flying to Baton Rouge to work in the football office here in Baton Rouge. So it is difficult, the back and forth, no doubt. But up until this point, Kevan Smith had not been one of them. He is now. So LSU has hired Kevan Smith, as we said. And on his first day in Baton Rouge, Kevan Smith knew exactly what his primary target needed to be, and that was Harlem Berry. So on Sunday night, I'll give you the scoop here. I'll tell you what I know, and then we'll talk about what it means, okay? So on Sunday evening, Harlem Berry, his dad, Harry, who candidly, I've gotten to meet both Harlem and Harry throughout Harlem's recruiting process and also during Harlem's freshman year. Amazing people. I'm going to let you hear some of an interview I did with Harlem Berry when he was still a high school student talking about LSU and Frank Wilson. That's coming up in just a second. But Harlem and Harry met with Kevan Smith on Sunday night at LSU football ops. GM Billy Glasscock was also a part of that meeting. And as I was told from a source very close to this situation, they met for about an hour Sunday night at football ops, and they were working on solidifying Harlem's return to LSU for his sophomore year. Now, as I understand it, that has not been finalized yet. And there is one potential complicating factor, and that is what happens with Kewan Lacy. So Kewan Lacy, as we all know, is the All-SEC running back, 1,300 yards, 20 touchdowns. He was a second-team All-American this season, started his career at Mizzou, transferred to Ole Miss, had a breakout season this year in this offense with Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss. And there was that audio recording of a phone call last week that leaked where Lane Kiffin was speaking and said that they've got Lacy and Kevan Smith solidified to join him in Baton Rouge. Well, we know the Smith component of it now is true as Kevan Smith is here. The question is Kewan Lacy. And I do think this is going to be interesting because this source told me that if, in fact, Lacy did sign with LSU, if Lacy goes into the transfer portal, which he has not yet declared his intention to do so, but if Lacy does go into the transfer portal and picks LSU, this source told me that he's not sure what that would mean. It would probably take more conversation in the midst of that to solidify Harlem Berry to Baton Rouge or to staying at LSU. Another thing that I have shared with you here before, we reported at LouisianaSports.net, is that Ole Miss has an offer for Kewan Lacy to stay in Oxford for $1.8 million, which means for LSU to get Lacy, should he choose to enter the transfer portal. Remember, the portal opens on January 2nd. Ole Miss is going to play in the quarterfinal game at the Sugar Bowl against Georgia on Jan 1. A day later, January 2nd, the transfer portal opens. If Kewan Lacy decides to enter the transfer portal for LSU to get him, it's probably going to cost you about $2 million. So that's a conversation Lane Kiffin, Billy Glasscock, they're going to have. Do you want to sink $2 million into a running back? Is it worth it? Maybe for this running back, it is. And if so, what does that mean for Harlem Berry? That's all a conversation that still needs to be had. But there's no doubt whatsoever that LSU is in desperate need of solidifying that room. Remember, JT Lindsey is not with the team for his freshman season. Juwan Johnson has also declared his intention to enter the transfer portal. He did tell me on my radio show a week ago that if Lane Kiffin wanted him to return, he'd be open to that conversation. As of now, that has not happened. You did not sign a running back in the early signing period here for 2026. So you've got Caden Durham available to return for his junior year, Harlem Berry available to return for his sophomore year, and certainly you could target backs in the transfer portal. But as of right now, it's tenuous there. But Smith, Berry, Harlem's dad, Harry, met with Smith and Billy Glasscock on Sunday night to work on solidifying Harlem Berry's return, which is huge because you would love to have Harlem Berry back. Now, the other complicating part of this is Frank Wilson, because Frank Wilson is the one who really did yeoman's work to get Harlem Berry to Baton Rouge. And we're going to talk about this just a little bit. I want to tell you, so again, they're working on getting Berry back, but what does all this mean? How do they make it happen? We're going to get to that here. Let me knock this out real quick. It's Locked On LSU, your team every day. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap. It's a way to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when they plug it in, the memories are already. There's no apps to figure out. There's no setup headaches, just instant smiles. And it doesn't matter who, anyone that loves photos, grandparents, parents, newlyweds, my wife who loves photos, which is why we have one of these frames in our den. And you get endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos through the Aura app. For a limited time, you can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames, which, by the way, was named #1 by Wirecutter, by using the promo code college at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code college. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like college football season. Tailgates, packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever, but actually getting tickets, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Listen, you open the Game Time app, you look at upcoming college football games in the college football playoff. You will be surprised how fast it is to find great seats. Maybe you want to be at the Sugar Bowl for the Georgia Ole Miss quarterfinal game. You can do it with Game Time. And I love that when you see college football tickets starting as low as $25, it makes it easy to game plan a day trip. And knowing all the prices include fees up front makes that whole process stress-free. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. So, as we look at Harlem Berry's potential return, I think it's important to note a couple things. Number one is why ultimately Harlem Berry picked LSU initially and what complicating factors could take him away. Now, money would be one of those, right? I think that's a very obvious one. I just told you that there's an offer on the table at Ole Miss. for Kewan Lacy at $1.8 million. If LSU ends up paying Lacy $2 million to transfer in 2026, what does that mean for Harlem Berry? Now, I don't have in front of me right now hard and fast the number that Harlem Berry was paid in his freshman season, but I do recall being told that number before the season, and it was a very nice six-figure dollar amount. But suffice to say, if you were going to match what Kewan Lacy's getting or increase Harlem Berry, do you want that much investment in the running back position? Now, there's also the Frank Wilson component of this. And this is the thing that I think most LSU people would fear, which is to say, Coach Frank has such deep-seated relationships with recruits, especially in the New Orleans area, especially running backs. I mean, Frank Wilson is New Orleans high school royalty, football royalty, who also is the running backs coach. Harlem Berry, I had a chance to interview him on my radio show in August of 2024. This was August of 2024 when he committed to LSU. Okay, so this was August before his senior season in high school, talking about Frank Wilson.
It was great. Me and Coach Frank had gotten real close in the past years since he's been recruiting me. So it was a great connection. Coach Frank, he came, they went at me hard. They would come after me. So I just felt like Coach Frank would do the best.
So there's that. And then remember how relational Frank Wilson is. I'm going to play this for you as a reminder, okay? This cut is almost 2 minutes long. So I'm going to ask you to bear with me and not punch out or fast forward this because it is a long clip, but I want to give you context. This was from the Monday press conference after Frank had been named interim, okay? So remember, Brian Kelly gets fired. They go into the open date. They come out of the open date. It's a Monday press conference before Alabama. And Frank Wilson was asked about the relationship with Harlem Berry.
So, his dad and I went to school together. His dad was in a band when I played football. His grandfather is a musician, so they're New Orleans jazz culture to the max. His mom is a member of Zulu and all this great stuff. She went to Warren Easton. And in the courtship of Harlem, a lot of it was rekindling, reminiscing with his parents, and then observing him from afar. And from his sophomore year, he was in the state track meet as a finalist, state champion, or runner-up in those years. But he was going to a school that was not necessarily a football mega, if you will, and at St. Martin's. And so everything you were doing was a projection. Now, you knew what he had done in NORD, which New Orleans Recreation Department, kind of like our BREC. You knew what type of player he was then, going against the best players in the city at that time. So even though he was going to a school that wasn't necessarily a football powerhouse, you saw the flashes, the body movement, the contact balance, all the things that you look for in a dynamic student athlete or football player. And then you saw it on the basketball court. Then you saw it on the track. And so we went all in. We went all in, and he continued to be dominant at St. Martin. And it just took a little time. He's probably put on 18 to 20 pounds since he's gotten here, since January. And so he is, again, ascending the way that we thought he would be. And I think he's going to be an outstanding football player when it's all said and done.
I wanted to play that entire thing for you so you got context of the relationship. Frank Wilson's talking about going to school with Harlem's dad, Harry, his mom being in Zulu, going to Warren Easton, his grandfather being in a band, playing jazz music. Like, he knows that. There's a deep, deep-seated relationship there with Frank and the Berries. So this is one of those things where if you leave the door open for Harlem Berry to leave, it could very well happen, and not just happen, but to a team you're going to play every year. Now, what LSU has working in its favor is the fact that when Harlem Berry was being recruited, he really didn't consider many other places. Again, back to that same interview I did with Harlem in August of 2024. Okay, this was the August before his senior season. I asked him why he chose to commit to LSU so early.
I really had my mind made up. Like, I've been wanting to go to LSU since I heard of LSU. So Leonard Fournette playing all them type of players. But once I really had my mind made up and was like, I saw what I wanted to see, I was like, yeah, this is where I need to be at. I just went with it, and I was like, I need to commit. So I had my senior season to myself. I don't have to worry about no recruiting visits, no coaches, this and that. So I just wanted to make that decision early.
I wanted to be at LSU since I knew what LSU was. I mean, that's not me saying it. That's Harlem Berry saying that before his senior year. So this is a guy from Louisiana, from New Orleans, who wants to be at LSU. Make no mistake. There's also the component of this where if it doesn't make sense competitively or financially, he could very well leave. So I think the really interesting thing that Lane Kiffin, Kevin Smith, Billy Glasscock, the GM, are all going to have to decide is, number one, if Kewan Lacy goes into the portal, do you make the type of financial commitment it's going to take to get Kewan Lacy here? And if you do that, are you okay risking the possibility of Harlem Berry transferring very likely to Ole Miss? Because if Ole Miss is going to pay Kewan Lacy 1.8 and Lacy ends up at LSU, then Ole Miss has that powder that they can burn to get Harlem Berry there. And is that a trade-off you're willing to make? I can't make that decision. Now, I'll remind you this as well. Ryan Clark, former Tiger, 13 years in the NFL. Everybody knows RC. RC, you may not know, is the coach of the Bootleggers, which is the 7-on-7 team. And that was the team that had Bryce Underwood and Harlem Berry, a lot of those great players on it. This was RC when Berry, this on my radio show, I remember this cut from Ryan Clark about Harlem Berry when he was coaching him in 7-on-7 with the Bootleggers.
If Harlem Berry doesn't become one of the most dynamic football players in college football. Now, with Harlem, though, it could be. He only gets 12 touches a game, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to be Leonard. You know, it's going to be 12 offensive touches and returns. But in those 18 touches, like, this is a dude that could be 160 all-purpose, 200 all-purpose yards a game for LSU.
I mean, that's a mouthful. Now, Berry in his freshman year played in 12 games. He started 5 times. He scored 2 touchdowns, 101 rushes for 446 yards. That's 4.4 yards per carry. He caught 8 passes for 32 yards. So not as much of a receiver as we maybe thought he might be. And he certainly could help you in the return game, although this year that was guys like Berry and Brown, Xavier Thomas, who both are seniors and will be out. So next year, conceivably, the plan could include Harlem Berry in the return game. So something worth following. But I think this is really, at its core, what we need to discuss with the running back position. We got to look at this almost like the NFL. Because, listen, we're talking about now managing salary cap effectively. So the question becomes, are you willing to invest big money into multiple running backs? Like, let me give you something that's an NFL comp, so you're not emotional about it, okay? The leading rusher in the NFL right now is James Cook from Buffalo. Do you know who the number 2 rusher for the Bills is? So James Cook, number 1, the number 2 leading rusher for the Buffalo Bills, it's their quarterback, Josh Allen. The second leading rusher in the NFL is Jonathan Taylor with the Colts. The number 2, by the way, Taylor's got 1,443 yards as of right now. The second leading rusher is Daniel Jones, their quarterback, with 164 yards. The next running back is DJ Giddens with 66 yards. Do you understand my point? The point being that if you are going to invest that type of money and resource into an elite level rusher, you have one elite level rusher. You don't have 2, right? Like Saquon, for example, Saquon Barkley with the Eagles is their leading rusher. Their number 2 leading rusher is Jalen Hurts. Their next running back is Tank Bigsby, who has 40 attempts on the season for 262 yards. You see my point? Like, there's just, and I understand the college roster is going to 105 and you have more spots, but you didn't sign a high school running back. So you got to make a decision. Is it worth the financial investment of your salary cap, air quotes, to invest heavily in 2 elite running backs? And I don't know the answer to that. But if you're only going to invest 1, then Lane Kiffin, Billy Glasscock here are going to have to make the decision. Is that Kewan Lacy or is that Harlem Berry? Now, I'm not trying to completely dismiss Caden Durham, who is freshman All-SEC a season ago and LSU's leading rusher this year. But if you're looking at upside and potential, Lacy already has shown that, and he's All-SEC this year, and Berry has maybe the higher ceiling. So which will it be? My thought is I'd rather have Harlem Berry for 2 years than Kewan Lacy for 1. But if you're looking for plug and play, reducing risk here, it's Kewan Lacy, because Lacy is your reigning All-SEC running back in this very system with this head coach and offensive coordinator Charlie Weiss knowing how to use him. By the way, in this league, you don't have to guess or try to project, can Kewan Lacy go from the American to the SEC without missing a beat, or the Sun Belt to the SEC without missing a beat? Will the skill translate? You don't have to worry about that. The answer. He's All-SEC running back this year. So it's really that question. I mean, my thought is I naturally would love for Harlem Berry to be at LSU. I would love to have both Lacy and Berry at LSU. If that's not possible, though, what is that financial commitment going to be to get both? And if it's not both, which one? My guess is we would all love for it to be Harlem Berry. My guess, though, is the staff would prefer for it to be Kewan Lacy. Hopefully it's not an either or. Hopefully they're able to get this thing finished to where it can be both. But as the source told me, if Lacy does come to Baton Rouge, it's going to take some sort of convincing and explaining of how that's going to work for both to coexist in Baton Rouge. And then, of course, there's the Caden Durham piece of this as well, which as we learn more, we'll talk about. Okay, that's what I got for you in this episode. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. If you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. You can always catch us every weekday on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network as well. So tell a friend. If they love the Tigers, we got you every single day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.